Yo, you tuning into the Notion Podcast. I'm your host, Dizzy DSPill, and I got some special that I want to talk to y'all about. I don't have my co-host in the building right now. They got some stuff they've been working on, and you will see us back soon. So don't think that the band is broken up because we rocking, and we got a lot of great things coming soon. Before I get into it, I did want to officially address that we got a couple mini-series coming from the Notion that we kind of already started. Of course, we have the I don't know why I just drew a blank. That's crazy. Of course, we have the show with me and Jelani, known as Boss Talk. And then I wanted to actually officially introduce the show that I have with Poe called Outlawed Opinions, which will be me and him. Obviously, the name speaks for itself. But today, I'm just doing one of our original joints that we would normally do together. And it couldn't wait. I didn't want this to age. I didn't want this to be something old, and it couldn't wait. Please like, subscribe, follow, check us out. You know what I'm saying? On the Notion Podcast. We're available on all platforms as far as streaming, and you can definitely find us everywhere. Some accounts more active than others, and we do officially have a Patreon, so there will be special content coming for that soon. So look for us on Patreon. Now, I'm not going to waste no time. I want to get into these topics, and one of the topics that I wanted to get into was Cam Newton. So, everybody knows Cam Newton has his podcast, and please, Cam, forgive me for not off rip remembering the podcast name. I actually tune in. I just been drawing blanks all day. I need to relax. I've been having a lot of stuff going on. Speaking of Cam Newton, I have my fantasy draft. So yeah, but basically what I wanted to get into, with what I wanted to talk about with Cam Newton in this interview is basically he had an interview with a young lady, or a woman, I'm sorry. And I don't remember her name off rip. I caught more clips than the whole thing, but they were extended clips. I ain't talking about Dracos, but were extended clips longer than a minute because, people like to take one clip of something and then, they run with that and then they judge a person's perspective off of that. But the internet was kind of like in a little bit of a debate because he had his interview talking about relationship concepts, and then his current woman that he's with had her in perspective on different concepts regarding a relationship, and that's not really what I cared about. The internet is going to be the internet. I definitely got me a little sip because I'm going to need to take one talking about these topics, but one of the things that I wanted to address was when I keep forgetting this woman's name. Doctor, y'all help me in the comments. She was talking to Cam and she spit some real facts towards Cam. And apparently she's talked to several of our influential black entertainers or celebrities about their choices in creating a lot of homes with single mothers in them. And I've had this conversation off mic with friends and my wife and just anybody who's open to just have some dialogue regarding these things in the culture. But I wanted to point out something that I felt needed to be highlighted based off, personally what I believe. And so getting into it, basically, and I'll show the clip. But basically, what I wanted to say towards what she was explaining was, obviously, she was saying, you having multiple kids out of fear of getting married and have multiple kids by multiple women, you are creating the potential, a potential issue for the child to lack certain things because you're not there as much as you should be there. Now, I felt like I definitely can have this conversation. But I felt like there were some things she was missing. I don't knock her for talking to anybody that has, child after child after child. Nick Cannon has got a lot of kids. Cam Newton's got a lot of kids. Fetty Wap's got a lot of kids. Future's got a lot of kids, and that's just like mainly like hip hop entertainment. That's not counting like D-boys, people in the streets, people in the hood. We all understand that, right? So she talked about that, and what I got from that was like, oh, okay, like I see what she's saying, and I related to what she said a little bit because I grew up without my dad, not because he walked out on me and he wasn't there. No, my mother and father was married. My father passed away my freshman year of high school. All of my anybody that's close to me knows that. They know how I feel about that. They know how I feel about the dynamic between a father and son, or just a father and their child, the daughter, whatever, right? And here's my thing. When she was breaking that down, I felt like two things should have been happening at the same time with her message that she's, presenting to these men. Because although she's right, she kind of left one piece of information out to not necessarily balance anything, but to bring more truth to the scenario. Yes, these guys that are having these children outside of wedlock and by different women, I do think that you are making things more difficult than easy. Now, they may be now the decisions you make may be easy for you and easy for your family or your children or whatever, but as a collective, as a culture, I don't think that's making anything easy, and I don't think that's the best. I'm not saying the worst, but it's not the best influence for our culture. It's not the best example for our culture. I get that we live in a time where anybody can do anything. You can be whatever you want to be. You can be called whatever you want to be called. But black people, we are not there. We are not a part of that because we are behind in the race in a lot of stuff that we need to catch up on. With that being said, when she pointed those things out, I was in agreement. It was well said. The clip was sent to me, but it got me thinking. She said, you're creating all of these environments because you have a fear of marriage. Now let's talk about marriage for a minute, because in our culture, we mock marriage. We laugh at marriage. I see it in the comments all the time. I'm saying we as a culture. Obviously, I don't, because I'm married myself and I've been married for a while. But talking about marriage, there's something that I wanted to point out that I think is not being looked at. When she says you're creating broken homes, well, let's talk about marriage and the broken homes that can come from that. The divorce rate in the U.S. Is wild, but to give some context and some numbers for you, the majority of the divorces are initiated by women. I am not here to go back and forth with y'all about the reasons. I'm telling you the facts. And the reason why I'm bringing that number out there is because that's creating a broken home too. So when you're telling men that you're creating broken homes by not being with one woman and not marrying that one woman, guess what? If that one woman decides she's not happy and she doesn't want to be with that man, that's creating a broken home when she initiates divorce and actually goes through with it and leaves or pushes him to leave. So there needs to be two conversations happening at the same time. I am not saying that she shouldn't be talking to any men. Nah, men need to be talked to about these things. And I do think that she's right. But she also needs to talk to us as a people and really break down, okay, we have a problem here. And in our culture, it's worse. Okay, so the percentage rate that I gave you guys, that is the percentage overall, but as a group, it's even worse. Right. And a lot of the reasons for divorce, and you guys can look this stuff up if you want, is it's usually commitment issues or emotional availability and finances. Now, I know for a fact that half or more than half of those divorces, or of most divorces, is over finances. So it's a 50-50 chance. It's a coin toss that if you get married and you get a divorce, it's highly likely it's going to have something to do with finances. Right. And when you take that information and you also look at the information you're witnessing yourself online about how much money a man needs to be making or a man needs to be paying all the bills, it adds up. it makes sense. Like, okay, women feel like this, and the women that are not those women but are in a different position feel similar to what they feel, and then they end up being like those women. So what I'm saying is if you have a whole bunch of single women saying, well, I'm looking for the right guy because he need to make all the money, he need to pay all the bills, he needs to do all of this, right? And then you have a woman over here who's already married. She technically won the Super Bowl when it comes to relationships, and she's feeling like this single woman over here. Pretty soon she's gonna be just like that single woman over here, and she's gonna move on and say, I don't want to be with you, and move on, and that's that. Broken home if they have children, or if they have children. So the point that I'm making about this is, although it's a good conversation, there's a conversation that needs to be happening at the same time. Yes, men need to be talked to, but also the women need to be talked to. Okay. And that's just my piece on that, because I just believe that we get caught up on social media and we talk about these issues, but I don't know how many of these individuals are really serious. Not saying she isn't, or that conversation with Cam wasn't, but we just see so many different conversations and issues about, you know, this person did this, I went through this, and everybody does have a story. Usually most people are either the hero or the victim of their story. And then you talk to somebody else and it's the polar opposite, you know, because at the end of the day, a lot of this is perspective. But my perspective is bringing you stats. Okay. And when we have this conversation, when we have the family conversation, because I believe when black folks get together and we can have a respectful conversation, that right there is a family conversation. It's, you know, it's heart to heart. This is what we need to do. This is what I believe. This is what you believe. Okay, here's where we come together. Here's where our differences are. In a family conversation, we have to really bring out the facts. And we really have to shine the light on what's going on. And I do believe that with the small group of us that are getting married or are married, we need to constantly, consistently, and with a lot of passion, encourage and influence those families and those couples to stay together. Work through things, have an understanding, have healthy environments in relationships. And then when we get those numbers more consistent and higher and sustain that number, then we need to go over to where the mess is and say, hey, listen, brother, man, you got to make an honest woman out of her. Listen, sister, you got to give that man a break. He has a lot of battles he's fighting before he even comes home to fight the final battle with you. You know, we don't have enough of those conversations. I'm not saying none of them exist, but a lot of times, because of the way we feel, we follow and we promote and we clap our hands when somebody says something that spoke to us personally. But you need to ask yourself, when you're following these people that speak to you personally, how does it benefit the collective? How does it benefit the group? We need to start having conversations, and we need to start pushing the envelope more on, is this conversation, is the results of this going to benefit the group? We already know it's a gender war out there. Black folks, we don't need any more wars. And all of these topics that I'm going to be talking about, there's kind of like this little tiny civil war depending on what the group is involved with the topics. So I'm probably never going to be done having this conversation, but hopefully I'll have less conversations about it. When it comes to the relationship between black men and black women, it is simply this: get your stuff together. Real talk, get your stuff together. I got some stats for y'all. You know, because we talk about relationship and a person needs to be this tall. You got men over here in their feelings, upset, a little too upset, a little too sensitive these days, telling women, well, why we can't do this? Y'all talk about how short we are, and y'all talk, and I've used these same talking points having a conversation, but I'm not super duper triggered by it because I already won my Super Bowl. I already got my wife. I already got my kids. I already have my friends and my family. I'm already doing my thing. So I'm not touched, but I do understand the perspectives. I have experienced things prior to getting to where I am now, but I do have some stats, and I do understand that sometimes conversations need to be had, but there's no, it just kind of like, it's like a bridge that's not finished. It cuts off. The conversation is there, but there's no resolutions. So I encourage all of you content creators and all of you people that are doing these interviews and having all of these conversations, that you conclude that meeting, that interview, with some solutions on what we can do, or what needs to happen for the situations that you discuss to be better in the future. But here's some numbers, okay? When it comes to the divorce rate, right? Black American couples tend to have the highest divorce rate compared to other ethnic groups. For example, black women have one of the highest divorce rates, often attributed to factors such as economic disparities, I said that earlier, social stressors, and marital instability, right? Then second place is white couples, right? Significant divorce, and I'm gonna be honest, no disrespect, but I don't even really care about the other groups because we're the ones with the F on the report card. But we're number one as far as in the worst, right? I'm gonna scroll down here. Let's go to infidelity. Black men. Some studies show that approximately 22 to 28% of black men have engaged in affairs at some point in their marriage. Black women, while y'all talking and while y'all laughing, you guys are at a 20 to 24% rate at doing the same thing. So when we talk about cheating, ladies, when y'all talking about cheating, fellas, y'all talk about it too, but I see a lot of content from our sisters about it. Understand that you are literally right behind us as a group as far as an infidelity. Okay. Now, here's some more interesting facts, right? Black women make between $35,000 and $40,000 on average annually as far as income. Black men make anywhere from $45,000 to $50,000 as far as income. Yo, we are behind. Now, when we get on Instagram, for some reason, even though those are the stats and those came from studies and actually doing some groundwork on what's going on, you get on Instagram and Facebook, I swear those numbers don't exist. Everybody's living right. Everybody's on vacation. I ain't settling for no broke chick. I want a submissive woman and she better do this. All of these different games, but it's fake. Social media is fake, you guys, because those numbers is real life. So whatever you guys post, that's cool. But I understand, and a lot of people that may think similar, like me, understand that stuff is fake. Y'all not balling like that. Y'all can post y'all Benz, y'all can post y'all BMW, y'all can post, a house or whatever, but y'all not posting that credit report. Y'all not posting that debt. Y'all not posting them collections notes from the mail. Y'all not posting that last write-up at work. Y'all not posting that suspension letter you got for your kid at school. Y'all not posting any of your L's, only the W's. So now people are insecure, feeling like I got to get nothing but W's, or at least act like it. But those are the numbers. That is the information. Black people, we are not winning. Now, I know people talking about, the election and all of that stuff, but as a group right now, we got work to do. And so seeing this conversation with Cam, it's definitely eye opening, but it opens like so many different like rabbit holes that you can go down with this conversation, because it does start with the family. And once the family is broken down, then everything is broken down with it. Morals, beliefs, experiences, all of that. So the family is very important, and the black family is extremely important these days, right? So when we go to these stats, right, and you look at how we're either number one when it comes to worst, or we're last when it comes to things that are great, it saddens me. this photo. I got this picture from my mom for my birthday recently, and it's a photo of Black Wall Street. I'll try to show it sometime or whatever. And I think about our history, and I think about the things that our ancestors accomplished and what they went through just so we can have the opportunities we have today. And to see us utilizing the opportunities, the resources, the way we're using them, and being divided at the same time, and using these resources against each other, it's pretty sad, and it's scary. It's scary as a parent too, because we have to raise kids in a world like this. And I hope things change, and I am optimistic about certain things that I'm doing and that my peers are doing, and my associates are doing. But this is a problem, and we all know that. But when we get online, when we get on our platforms, and we start talking about what we think and what we feel, sometimes that's why I'm glad we don't have guests on this particular show, because it could turn into an open dialogue of debate. But often the debates that I see on panels and stuff, there's never a solution. There's an agree to disagree, or agree that we're both right about certain things, but there's never yeah, this is what needs to happen, that's what needs to happen, and this is how we do it, so what do we do about it? And that's because a lot of people that make content are just looking for some exposure and a bag. And to be honest, I think that if that's how you make a living, that's cool. But I hope and pray that you are utilizing your resources and some of the income that you make to make a difference in certain people's, in certain lives that'll be better for the group. Because every other ethnicity does this. Every other group, they have their own program. They don't need us. They don't need us. Yet a lot of groups use our resources. They take our ideas, but they don't need us. And that should put a battery in all of our backs to say, well, if we don't need us, who does? Us. We need each other. So having these conversations, the conversation that Cam was having, it was a very respectful one, but we need to add all of the pieces to the puzzle, not just focus on the one that's shaped funny. All right. Speaking of our people, there has been something that was very interesting to me regarding an interview that Dr. Umar had. And Dr. Umar believes, when they were having the conversation about 50 years of hip hop, he said, in the 50 years of hip hop hasn't done nothing for the culture, for our culture and our community. What institutions? He was really, really passionate. Like I've seen Dr. Umar fired up, but I haven't seen him that fired up. But I don't follow a ton of his content as much as I used to when I first found out who he was. And being an artist myself, and understanding, even though I have some things that I appreciate about Dr. Umar and I have some things I kind of disagree with Dr. Umar, overall, as an artist myself, I definitely believe that that's bullshit. And I looked at the comments in the post, and there was a lot of people saying, yeah, facts, right? And he said something that made me believe that he has never been a student of hip hop, because he said hip hop has created nothing, given the community nothing really but, a false sense of reality. I mean, I'm kind of just paraphrasing and stuff, and, more destruction. Being an artist and also being from the West Coast, Dr. Umar, again, I understand that you are not a student of hip hop. The reason why I'm saying this is because gangster rap brought that energy to hip hop. Hip hop did not start out about no gunplay, about moving no drugs, about doing certain things to women. No, hip hop started out fun. Just like Freaknik. If you guys watched the Freaknik documentary, when you found out how it really started to how it ended up, it's kind of sad. Hip hop is the same way, but hip hop also started to evolve over the decades, Dr. Umar, into different subgenres. So when you say hip hop as a whole, you have to understand that hip hop as a whole, yes, all of these things derive from one thing, but in the beginning stages of hip hop, it was not any of that. Rakim is one of the greatest MCs to ever live, and that man does not cuss in his music. You serious right now, Umar? So Rakim did more damage to our people. Rappers Daylyte did damage to our people. Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, Grandmaster Cass, and the list goes on. They didn't do damage to the culture. There's some music that can be damaging, but a lot of these artists are speaking on things that happened in front of them, that happened in their environment. One of the things that bothers me when I hear people talk about how hip hop has done so many things to our people and all of this stuff, nobody says this about death metal. Nobody says this about heavy metal. Nobody's sitting around talking about how Marilyn Manson did all of this damage. Let me tell you something. Jay-Z said something that really stood out, and it's an underrated bar. Not because it's like, oh man, when you hear it, it's bars, but it really says a lot without saying much. He says, Scarface, the movie, did to me way more than Scarface, the rapper. And I'm paraphrasing, but hip hop had a lot of influence from gang activity, things that they watched on TV. Listen to some of the rappers' names from the East Coast specifically: Beanie Siegel, Noriega, Nas Escobar, Biggie Smalls, aka Frank White. When you listen to these names, these are mobster names and like crazy, like wild people that really exist. That's some of their influence. When our people started this music, it was none of that. And now you have different elements of it. And let's keep it real, Dr. Umar, because I'm talking to the people that 100% agree with you, feel like you do no wrong. And I'm talking to you too, with respect. You're leaving out so many different people that left positive images, that made positive music. Like, come on, man. Lauryn Hill, J. Cole, right? Seriously? Kendrick don't really have a deep message in his music. I mean, what's up? We are so hell-bent as a culture we call ourselves trying to point out what the solutions are, but we try to do it by exposing all of the problems mainly. I don't think hip hop music or music itself is the problem. We've had artists in the 60s that did things similar to hip hop music. I mean, I grew up listening to Al Green, Curtis Mayfield, SOS Band, all of James Brown, Gene Chandler, Otis Redding, The Whispers, the Delphonics. I listened to all of that stuff because that's what my parents played. But what you guys fail to understand when y'all critique hip hop sampled all of that shit. All of it. And they grew up off of it just like I did. And when you listen to some of Curtis Mayfield's music, that shit is no different than rap. I'm your mama, I'm your daddy, I'm that nigga in the alley. I'm your doctor when you need, got some coke, got some weed. I'm your pusher, man. It just had a nice smooth, rhythm to it where it's like, yeah, I'm your pusher. But come on, he's talking about moving weight. Superfly, all the black exploitation films. Hip hop in order to blame hip hop music, Dr. Umar, you also have to blame black exploitation films as well as the actors and actresses in those movies. Snoop Dogg is very, very, he's heavily influenced by that stuff. When Snoop be on that pimp player stuff, he's sampling and he's getting that energy from that era. You understand that, right? So I say that because we have to be careful trying to point the finger or trying to say that this was. Now, what I will agree with you on, Dr. Umar, is that when it comes to how we allowed for people that don't look like us to control hip hop, I agree with you there. Because those people that control, because we don't, as a people, black people, we don't control hip hop. We don't control none of the major labels. We don't control none of the radio stations. We don't control any of that. We don't control algorithms, any of that stuff. Okay. We have the ability to, but we don't. The fact that we allowed them to pick and choose what was hot music to be put out there and promoted, now that's on us. That's why you have such crazy music where it's worshiping damn near everything that's destructive. Now, yeah, our artists that look like us are making the music, but those executives and those labels, they're the ones pushing the music. They're the ones paying for the distribution, paying for the marketing, paying for the spot in the playlists so that it gets popular. Now that is on them, but you cannot put the art form on us. Now, he said, what has hip hop done for us? Well, he doesn't want examples of individuals. Well, I'm sorry, Umar, but that counts. Just because you say that it doesn't matter because an institution wasn't being built does not mean anything. That is your personal feelings and your personal preferences, brother. It doesn't matter that they didn't build an institution because that's what you think should have been built. They did something, okay? They did something. They just screwed it up in the Olympics. Breakdancing comes from hip hop. And if it was done right, then maybe they would consider it in the Olympics. Now, I'm a little funky about it even being involved in the first place. But I mean, damn, you have to have a heavy influence for them to try to create a spot for that. So kudos to hip hop. Shout out to hip hop for that one. But bro, just because you didn't see an institution being built doesn't mean anything. I went to a black private institution as a youngster that is still on the fence with, well, not on the fence, but on the rocks with possibly shutting down because they don't have enough funding. Have you went to Mississippi to that school? Have you went to the Piney Woods Country Life School and talked to the kids and see what they need? Because that is a black school that's been around over 100 years. We're not talking. We don't talk about that. We want to talk about what they're not doing and what happened, but we're not talking about the things that we could preserve. Now, I know, Umar, I know you opening a school, brother, and a lot of people doubted you and made fun of you. I actually believe that you're going to do something. I actually believe something's going to happen because I understand there's certain things that you have to take care of, building codes and all of that stuff. I watched the interview talk about that, but you need to understand something, bro, before you start going in and saying what the problem is and how certain things haven't been. We are failing the things that have already been there to make sure that they're not preserved. That's what we need to be talking about. But as far as hip hop, I can't just stand by and be like, yeah, bro, I agree. I wholeheartedly disagree with you on that. Hip hop has knock down doors so that there's other opportunities that us people like us can get into and get involved with. Hip hop has created different relationships with actors and athletes and Martha Stewart and Snoop Dogg. Come on now. Nobody's seen anything like that. Nobody's seen anything like that. This dude is a grandfather. For crying out loud. This dude, because of him having an opportunity to be in hip hop, the dude has understood business. He's been involved with the Olympics. And I know there's a lot of people that are going to disagree with it, but hell, just because you disagree with it doesn't mean it didn't happen. The man tried to come out with Serial. The man's came out with a gospel album. When hip hop has allowed for us, whether it's collectively or as individuals, be able to step in spaces that we would never see ourselves in prior to hip hop. That's what hip hop has done. Hip hop has allowed for people like myself to be able to be completely independent, and I've actually made some money off of my music. That didn't happen in the 90s. And who knows what will happen in another 50 years. But hip hop is only 50 years old. Who knows what it'll grow into? But because it hasn't built an establishment or hasn't built an institution in your lifetime doesn't mean it's a failure. Hell, think about this. If hip hop is 50 years old, right? And the civil rights movement was probably 20 years prior to that, these are young things. These are things that are continuing to grow and expand and do all kinds of stuff. So to just sit up there and say that it's done nothing for us, I think you should reword that, sir. And I think you should say it's done nothing for you, because you don't speak for all of us, brother. You don't speak for all of us, man. And although you say things and you point things out that are necessary for the culture, and despite what anybody says about you, man, you are what the culture needs. We need to hear certain things. We need to hear harsh truths. We need to hear different perspectives, because I know you from what I've seen, it genuinely feels like you come from a place of like, I want to see my people do better. A lot of people call you a lot of names, but I don't see any of these people outdoing you or trying to do what you do. But you don't speak for all of us, dog. And I think that's very harmful for you as somebody that is trying to represent all of us, to say something like that about something that we created. When it comes to stuff that we've created, we have to be very delicate on how we speak on it, because that's part of the reason why it's easy for other groups to turn their nose up at us and make an attempt to disrespect us, because we don't respect the houses that we stay in or the houses that we build. Okay? We have to start protecting the things we've created. We have to start protecting people that are in our groups, because I'm telling you right now, especially being in the workforce, you guys have no idea. If you guys are independent contractors, or you guys get to work from home and forgot what it's like to work in an environment, I'm gonna tell you right now, you guys are lucky, because I see it all the time. Every time I'm going somewhere, I see these other groups band together, even if they're not necessarily always on the same page, or they might have a little friction between each other. They not gonna let somebody else come into the family or the circle and disrupt it. Straight up. The other groups ain't having it. And we need to be the same way. Straight up. But Umar, that is a lie. Hip hop has done a lot as far as institutions. I mean, T.I. has created some museums out there in the South, Trap Museum and things of that nature. There are things that, I mean, Jay-Z has his museum, and those are things that come from us. Hip hop comes from music. Okay? A lot of what we do in hip hop originated from Africa. You always talk about the Prince of Pan-Africanism, and we emulate and we take a lot of, I mean, right now there's a genre called Afro beats, basically. That's directly from Africa. Okay? And here's the crazy part. This is the crazy part. It's heavily integrated, involved in hip hop. It's being promoted on hip hop platforms. Again, we don't know how far this thing is going to really go, but we see how far we see how great and how much it's grown over the 50 years. I'm not even 50, man. I'm a lot younger than hip hop, and I've seen the impact on it just in my life. Now, the brother you was debating with, Umar, he probably was having a hard time trying to have a debate with you, because you was wilding out, man. You was acting like you just dropped 30 on Steph Curry, man. You was getting up and yelling and slamming stuff, and I get you're passionate, but bruh, come on, man. That's why bruh was having a hard time trying to get his words together. You were a distraction. But you're crazy. Anybody that agrees with Umar on that, you're crazy. And y'all need to understand there's different moving parts of hip hop. Hip hop, you can't just put a stamp on everything and say that it's hip hop because it has a nice beat to it and there's rhymes. Some things are rap. Some things are gangster rap. Some things is hip hop. Some things is old school hip hop. Some things is drill music. Something like there's different subgenres, man. Don't put that jacket on anything. Don't put hip hop's jacket on everything that you disagree with about a rapper or the industry. Because there's some people that don't even want to be. There's some people that are underground. There's some people that just likes making music and making beats. Like bro was trying to say, it's created ways of means of income for people, and who knows what these people do with that money. You don't know, Umar. You're not sitting down with all of them. You should sit down with some people from hip hop, independent and mainstream, and see what they've done for their communities, see what they've done for families. I mean, that you took something that you knew wasn't there in hip hop and you said, hey, y'all ain't did this or y'all ain't did shit. Well, Slim Thug basically built the neighborhood. Boosie has 3 or 4 houses or multiple houses on his property for his children so they can learn how to live on their own. Like, they are doing things in their environment, in their region. Don't say that it hasn't done nothing. They all ate off of hip hop. They all got their opportunities off of hip hop. I'm going to get off of the whole hip hop thing for a minute. I know I'm going crazy, but I just had to, man, that really bothered me. I understand what you're saying, Umar, but nah, bro, I'm not feeling that one. I'm not. I guess this is another music thing, and I'm gonna wrap this up. I ain't gonna make this. I ain't gonna take too long on this one. But battle rapper Daylyte. For y'all that don't know, Daylyte is a battle rapper. He's nice. He always trolling though, but he's actually nice at what he does. Daylyte said something that I think Umar would just eat up and just love, as far as in a point. He says drill music might be the worst shit that ever happened to us niggas. Okay? He says, bruh, you can't dance to the shit. You can't get no hoes with it. You can't sip no wine to it. You just got to cut it on and think about killing and mean mugging. Laugh out loud. Now, I don't really listen to drill music like that. But damn, Daylyte has a point. Now, no disrespect to any of the drill artists, because, again, you're probably rapping about and writing about what you've seen, what you've experienced, and that's probably just the culture in your environment at that time. But man, I've never heard a drill song and say, you know what, I'm finna go pour me a little drink and just chill. But at the end of the day, Daylyte, the only thing I can say is that, no pun intended, by the way, is the only thing I can say is that there is a soundtrack for everything. I wouldn't necessarily just categorize it and say the only thing you can do is just sit there and think about hurting somebody. Man, everybody has a routine to get them going for the day. You know, some people might want to listen to some rock. Some people might want to listen to some trap or some jazz, and that gets them excited and motivated to work out. You know I listen to certain music when I ran track. You know, I listened to some upbeat jazz or some Nas or something like that when I was warming up for track. But some people, they might want to listen to some drill when they're lifting weights. That might give them the energy. And, you know, this is speaking to my inner gangster. I got to lift these dumbbells. I don't know. I honestly don't know. But I wouldn't go to say that the only thing you're going to get out of that and the only thing that you're going to feel, you're kind of putting that in the universe, bro, when you say that. But I will say, the things that he listed, you can't really listen to trap to drill music when it comes to those things. Like I said, there's music for everybody. These writers, these amazing writers and performers, they have something to say, and you're not always going to like it. But we live in a world that's, you know, You can wear rose-colored glasses, but your rose-colored glasses can't protect you from everything that you see, right? I know tons of things that have nothing to do with music, that have nothing to do with Instagram, that could be very detrimental to a person's mind, because too much of anything can be bad for you. These little kids know how to play Call of Duty, and they are nice. Most kids are nicer than any of these adults at these shooting games. That could be terribly influential. That could have a huge impact on a person's mind. You know, when you're shooting up on Call of Duty, you done took out like 40 people, and you think it's that easy to do it in real life, and think that, you know, you're just gonna spawn back if something happens. Nah, man. There's a lot of things that can influence us. And it can influence us in a negative way. So we have to stop. We have to stop pointing the finger at one thing or one person and say, see, you are the example. You can say you are a example of a small part of the problem. But we have to stop picking what we think the problem is and then hammering at that. And we need to focus on what the real problems are and collectively get together and have multiple task forces tackling those problems at once. I already feel like I said too much, because I believe that black folks need to start working in silence, because it didn't work too well with us working, in front of the camera. And that's for another conversation. But that's what we need to do. We need to tackle all of these issues at once. And I see a few people here and there trying to do that with financial literacy and trying to be nonviolent with certain things. But I'm telling you guys right now that music is not our biggest issue, and who you vote for in the election is not our biggest issue. These are all issues for sure, but they are not the biggest ones. And until we as a group, the majority of us, really look and open our eyes, because all the information is right there in front of us and it's free, until we look at what the real problems are and collectively break up into groups and tackle and eliminate those problems, we will forever be having the same conversations and complaining about the same shit and trying to blame everybody but ourselves. I understand history. My mother refused to let me go out into this world without understanding our history as a culture. But we got some accountability too. And although we can't change history, and we can't even change the way people feel about us or look at us, and we may never change the way other groups look at us, I don't even care. What I do care about is how we are doing and what we are doing about our health as a group, our mental health, our physical health, our health as a community. It needs to be better. Anyways, you already know what it is. You've been tuning in to the Notion Podcast. I'm your host, Dizzy DSPill. You know what to do. Already know. Some of y'all gonna disagree with me. Some of y'all didn't like what I said, but if you didn't, you know what to do. Leave comments. We'll go back and forth. To those that want us to tackle certain conversations, leave comments, send DMs. Anyways, until next time, peace.